The HPP programs are structured very differently. They are a sensory overload technology, a gentle sensory overload technology. And the way that is structured is by the use of multiple storytelling. So instead of hearing one track, which is what you would hear in most hypnotic audio programs, you actually hear two simultaneously, starting off with a single story, and these are stories, adult fairy tales. And then, at some point, usually 6 minutes in, it splits into two simultaneously told stories, one in each ear. And this is where it really gets interesting. Most people assume that since you hear two things simultaneously, it would somehow be jarring or uncomfortable. In this case, it's the opposite because of the way things are done. Everything is done in a very slowed down fashion. So you hear two stories simultaneously. Eventually, it becomes fatiguing to listen. Your conscious mind drifts away. At the moment your conscious mind drifts away, you go into a deeply relaxed state. It's as if your mind tells your body, rid yourself of all the tension. That's the moment that you're most receptive to incoming information. The hypnagogic or twilight state is that state of mind in between waking and sleep. While you're listening to the dual stories, you begin to drift down. And as you drift down, you go through different brainwave states, ending up, when everything is working perfectly, in the theta state, which is the brainwave in between waking and sleep. It's there where you're not quite awake, you're not quite asleep, but it is that unique window of opportunity for being receptive to information. When you're in it, that's the place where when you hear something, you're much more likely to utilize it and make the change you want to make. As children, there wasn't any time we enjoyed more than hearing the words, "It's story time." That taps into something that I believe is wired into our nervous system because our long-term memory doesn't kick in till we're 4, and that's the time when we begin to perceive our life as a narrative. So it's not like we simply like stories, we literally are a story. That deeply relaxed state has all kinds of benefits in terms of changing hormone levels because there's so many stress chemicals flowing through people's bodies because of the fight-flight response. This deep relaxation response is an antidote to the fight-flight response, which is occurring in people countless times during the day when they're annoyed and angry and frustrated about everyday events. This is an ideal way to deal with that. There was a specific woman when I first started doing this who was in a workshop that I was participating in, and at the end of listening to the program, there was a question and answer format, and everybody had the opportunity to give feedback in terms of what their experience was. And at the end of the question and answer period, suddenly from the back where this woman was sitting, she stood up and said, "You know, I've never been more relaxed in my life," and then paused and said, "Oh my, that's the first time I ever stood up in a group and expressed myself." So here was an opportunity where somebody who had never done that before, after listening, within seconds after stopping listening, actually did something she'd never done before. That's pretty dramatic. That's not going to happen with everybody, but that's what can happen, because that's the way the programs are set up, for things to happen without you having to do anything. That's the way it works, in the natural flow of what you do without you having to consciously think about it. That's the way you would want to have it happen. This way the responsibility isn't on your conscious mind. It's on another part of you who knows what you need. That soundbite is in your head, and it'll fire at the right time.